A fast boat darts off Venezuela's coast near Carúpano. Above it, an American eye never blinks. Minutes later, a strike. One of 21 in a rolling campaign that officials say targets more than just boats. This isn't random. It's the product of Treasury tracing offshore money, intercepts linking Venezuelan officials to CJNG facilitators, and a carrier group positioned to act without waiting for basing permissions. Keep watching to see how that web turns into real-time targeting, and what it means when state-linked actors are treated as narrow terrorists at sea. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. That line wasn't bravado. We will find you and we will kill you, plugged straight into a maritime kill chain now running across the Caribbean. Here's the shift. Instead of treating CJNG boats as one-off smugglers to chase and arrest, the doctrine groups cartel operators and state-linked facilitators under the narco-terror umbrella. That unlocks targets beyond hulls. Logistics tenders, relay boats, encrypted comms relays riding coastal waters, and command nodes afloat become part of the target set. If a vessel serves as a link between protected departure points and cartel decision-makers, it becomes actionable. The carrier group isn't hunting fuel drums and go-fasts. It's reaching for the lattice that moves money, tasks crews, and calls the handoffs. That creates a hard question. Traditional maritime interdiction ends with blue lights, zip ties, and a courtroom. This posture points to lethal action if the intelligence shows command direction. Where is the legal edge in international waters when the actors are labeled narco-terrorists? The administration frames it under national defense responsibilities abroad. The rules of engagement hinge on intelligence thresholds, positive identification of role, and a clear chain of command attribution. The knife's edge is thin, but the doctrine says actionable intel moves the response from seizure to strike. The kill chain itself is simple on paper and complex in motion. Sensors build the picture: intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance across wide sea lanes. Shooters execute: carrier air-wing jets, rotary assets, and surface combatants with guns and precision weapons. Decision flows through an intel fusion cell that weighs sources, applies rules of engagement, and authorizes fires. Assessment rides on persistent ISR that keeps eyes on target before, during, and after the shot, confirming effects and guiding follow-on action. Pentagon guidance, as described in official statements, stresses continuous presence and strike capacity without leaning on host nation runways. A carrier with escorts delivers that. It can hold station, shift boxes overnight, and keep airborne coverage rotating without a diplomatic phone call. That independence is central to the campaign's tempo. How do they keep the picture stitched together? Airborne early warning platforms fly racetrack patterns to manage the airspace and cue surface radars. Patrol aircraft run long legs along departure arcs and choke points, sweeping for low-profile hulls and irregular traffic. MQ-9 type, or carrier-based ISR, fills gaps with endurance or proximity, watching rendezvous points and shadow routes. An E2D-style node ties the airborne and surface radars into a common track file, handing targets to shooters within minutes. Each orbit overlaps the next, so the handoff isn't a gap, it's a pass. Officials describe a rolling series of strikes. Some outlets cite a 21st hit and casualties. Not every figure is confirmed, and some claims remain under review. The campaign acknowledges this openly by separating what's assessed with confidence from what's still being validated by post-strike ISR and recovered material. Now compare that to the old tempo. Coast Guard cutters run sprints based on tip-offs, often covering one lane, then breaking off to prosecute, process, and transfer detainees. The window closes fast and handoffs to partner forces slow everything down. A carrier group flips that. Multiple lanes get watched at once. Prosecution can occur within the same orbit that found the track. There's no waiting on a shore team to clear a runway slot or refuel a plane at a borrowed base. So what did Hegseth mean? A counterterrorism-style doctrine at sea that turns intelligence threads into immediate lethal action against command-directed narcotics movement. But that only holds if the target deck is fed by sources that stand up under scrutiny. And the list of feeders is longer than a radar track. If the strike clips focus on hulls taking hits, the real story lives off-camera. Bank wires, encrypted chatter, and coastal arteries that tie into Venezuelan power hubs and move cocaine north under state-colored shade. The Cartel of the Suns is the name U.S. investigators attach to a web of alleged Venezuelan officials and security units that, according to Treasury actions and intelligence mapping, interface with cocaine shipments. It's not a single crew on a pier. It looks more like a tiered service. A gatekeeper at a port, a security detachment whose patrol times line up with launch windows, and financial operators who clear money through offshore accounts. When those elements line up, a traffic lane turns from open water into an organized export point. That allegation raises the stakes. If a fast boat crew runs on its own, it's smuggling. If a launch slips out from a military zone under a schedule set by connected officials, it looks like state-enabled logistics. The question isn't whether the boats exist. It's who guarantees their freedom to move, who funds the fuel, and who calls off the patrols when a departure needs a quiet corridor. Routes matter. Departures push from near La Guaira, Carúpano, and the Paraguana Peninsula, then break into sea lanes that bypass major patrol arcs before angling toward Central America and island chains where handoffs occur. Some runs use twin or triple-engine go-fasts with low profiles and sparse metallic signatures. Others use semi-submersibles that sit low, trading speed for stealth. Cargo shifts near small cays or in the lee of islands, where a second crew takes the load onward toward Belize, Honduras, or the Yucatan edge. Each leg has its own fuel plan, lookouts, and rendezvous timing to dodge the predictable passes of maritime patrols. Money bridges the gaps. Treasury designations point to offshore accounts and remittance patterns that run through facilitators, fixers who sit between Venezuelan actors and CJNG nodes. They settle crew pay, buy engines under front companies, and launder proceeds back through service firms that claim legitimate trade. Those patterns don't appear once. They repeat near launches and seizures, giving analysts anchors to connect names, vessels, and dates. Signals add another layer. Electronic intercepts flag coordination between Venezuelan personnel, Colombian suppliers who control source loads, and intermediaries who stage departures and meet points. Content isn't just chatter. It's timing, route choices, and fallback plans when a patrol lingers too long near a corridor. When the same call signs resurface across multiple launches, the thread becomes stronger than a hunch. There are cases that reinforce the map. Maritime seizures have traced back to zones controlled by Venezuelan military and coastal security units, with cargoes linked to facilitators already on designation lists. Each interdiction yields device data, phone trees, and banking crumbs that feed the next diagram. Over time, the nodes shift, but the structure, the need for protection, cache management, and staging, stays stable enough to track. Put it together and the window narrows from suspected smuggler to commanded narcotics movement. ISR catches the hull and its pattern. Financial analysis ties payments to known facilitators. Intercepts supply role and coordination. When those threads match at a launch or rendezvous, the standard for direct action crosses from probable to operationally confident, and the target shifts from a boat to the people directing it. That's why the Suns matter here. They are described as state-linked actors who coordinate shipments and finance CJNG logistics. Labeling that activity narrow terrorist adjacent expands the lawful target set beyond fiberglass and fuel bladders to the command and finance elements that keep the bridge open. If the network is the engine, the hull is just a piston. With targets defined and justified, the next question is reach and endurance. How do you keep eyes in the box long enough to act every time the network twitches? That's where the carrier group's math takes over. A carrier isn't just steel on the horizon. It moves with its own warrant. Finance leads, signals, intercepts, and constant eyes in the sky turning names and routes into targets in minutes. Tracks become tasks, and tasks become strikes without waiting for a runway slot or a phone call. Tell us in the comments, does treating cartel state links as narrow terrorism steady the Caribbean or spark a wider fight? If you want the next update when a new lane lights up, don't forget to like and subscribe. Next, we'll track how traffickers pivot. Quieter hulls, altered handoffs, and the counters already queued on Ford's flight deck.